Wednesday, September 16th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, Pokemon Adventures, the manga.
Let's do this.
You realize, other than one day on Wednesday after PAX, I have not been back to my office since we went to PAX.
You're gonna have to go back to the office eventually if you want monies.
Well, no, I'm working from home. It's the best thing ever.
Except aren't you working the night shift from home?
Well, I am, but last week I was working the day shift from home.
Uh-huh.
And I got to say, working the day shift from home is perhaps the greatest thing in the world. I mean, I used to have a very short commute.
It's a lot greater? Not working and just traveling wherever the hell you want.
Yeah, but I have to work right now at least. So I think I have enough money. I could quit and live for a while before I eventually starve to death.
The thing is, I've been thinking lately, it's like, hey, let's say, I don't know, I went to the doctor and they told me I had like a year to live, right? What would I do? I'd travel the world for a year, be like, whatever. But that means that if I could do that...
You could do that anyway.
I could do that anyway.
At the end of that, you'll have no assets. You'll be indigent.
What's indigent mean?
No assets.
What do I do then?
I don't know, starve in the street.
There's no way to unindigent?
Get some money.
I have skills.
I mean, you'll probably have a bunch of debt chasing you, because obviously, if you were going to die and you're going to travel the world, credit cards pay for everything.
All right, so what if I travel the world and then I get back and the doctor's like, oh, wait, actually, you're not going to die?
That has happened, and there was a case, it was on FARC a couple of years ago, where a guy was told that he had like a year to live, terminal illness, so he like sold his house and spent all his money and like lived the life of his dreams.
And then he was a homeless bum?
He sued the doctor. And
Good idea. Doctor's got money.
I don't know what came of it.
Hopefully you just get the doctor to pay off the debt, then you can get a job and be okay.
See, here's the problem. If he got all of it taken care of, you realize the obvious scam is you work with a doctor to diagnose you, and then you guys have a party. Anyway.
No, you know why you wouldn't do that? Because what happens then? It's now insurance fraud.
Yeah, insurance fraud is very lucrative, I guess.
Hey, unless you're uninsured. But then who are you going to get money from?
Well, if you're uninsured, by definition, you cannot be party to insurance fraud.
I know, but you also
unless
cannot be party to a bunch of money to help you go around the world.
Unless you are the guy who sets the house on fire to precipitate the insurance fraud.
Uh-huh.
Then you get paid.
Then you're an arsonist.
You'll be good at arson.
All right.
Anyway, but having all this free time, I've been working European banking hours this week, and I've been doing it from home.
Do you get bank holiday?
I would have, but there weren't any bank holidays while I was doing the European shift.
Is it all of Europe or just UK or what?
Well, it's complicated. Our operation is based in the UK.
Because the bank holidays are only in London's, I think.
Well, no, but the stock...
UK...
The complicated answer is that there was a bank holiday that happened that was only UK, so our people took the day off, but the rest of the European markets were active, so it was this complicated... We're still figuring out how to handle that. But working from home, a lot of free time. What am I doing? I'm watching the Space Train.
Oh, Space Train. I already finished. Well, I think about it. Space Train's like 17 episodes?
Something like that.
There aren't too many people in the history of the universe who have seen the whole thing.
Yeah, you've said this.
There's probably hundreds of people who've seen the whole thing, and I'm one of them. Every single episode. Holy shit.
You gonna watch every Leiji Matsumoto? Everything?
That's just impossible.
There's
probably like 0 people who've done that.
Thing is,
Leiji Matsumoto is among the 0 people.
The man at some point has to die, and as long as he dies before you could theoretically watch it all.
Yeah, I guess it takes less time to watch than it takes to make, and they made it all, so yeah.
But one thing I gotta say, I watched like the whole beginning, and I watched like all these 20 or so episodes all through the middle, and now I'm watching like the last 15 episodes. And one thing I gotta say, Matsumoto lays on the melodrama pretty thick, but as we always say, he's the only man in the world who can do it with a straight face. But he's really laying it on thick. Like that episode where there are 2 Galaxy Express 39s.
That was a good
and
one.
2 Mattels and one Tetsuro and one other guy.
And then they don't even let you know if the mix-up was actually a mix-up or not. They're just like, yeah, it's all right, bitches.
And they throw in that episode, they throw that whole side story of, yeah, there's also a world where the cyborgs are the good guys.
Yup. That's a good one.
But there's like this 5-minute scene of people saying goodbye to each other, and that was like the most melodrama in the whole series as far as I can tell.
I don't know. Captain Harlock, he can lay it on pretty heavy.
Well, that series. I mean,
there was an episode with Captain Harlock.
there was, but that
It was actually a 3-parter, I think.
but that 3-parter couldn't be nearly as melodramatic as Arcadia.
Did you not
of my
watch
youth.
the 3-parter?
I did not.
I'll have to tell you which episodes those are.
Yeah, I'll go back and watch that shit. I love me some Harlock.
All right.
But we'll probably review Galaxy Express. We just have to watch the movie again, and I have to finish
Yeah,
watching
it
the
needs
end
to
of
be
the
a big
show.
movie showing going on.
Yeah, maybe Sunday after the game. We're playing, Burning Wheel this weekend. Maybe we'll
I
get.
don't know about Sunday.
Yeah, the problem is we started like 10.
Yeah, right.
We'll see. Anyway, what do you got for me? It's anime
What do
day.
I have for you? Well, there isn't really news. Well, actually, there is one big news.
Well, there's the obligatory. There's no more anime industry. Blah 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 blah. But
yeah, and comic news is usually pretty uninteresting. It's usually like, oh, a new series from so and so, or up so and so canceled. It's not like this big happenings too often in the world of comics. So I'm gonna continue my trend of doing Geek Bites in the Wednesday news slot, and I'll continue this trend with this book here. It's Marvel 1985. It's let's see, it's $20. I didn't pay $20, and it's not really thick enough to be $20 worth. But anyway, this is you remember the Marvel 1602 by Neil Gaiman?
oh yeah, that was actually pretty good.
That was actually very good.
I liked it.
This is not as good,
Wow.
but it's okay. Basically, the deal is it's 1985. In the United States, I forget exactly where, maybe California, I forget. It's basically a suburban, somewhat rural type of place. And there's a kid with divorced parents, and he goes to live with his dad or whatever, and there's a weird house in the woods that, something's going on there. And basically, the kid thinks he's insane because, he sees Dr. Doom at the house. And, sure enough, right, the kid... at first he
It's
thinks
not insane, and Doctor Doom is at the house.
Yeah, and so are pretty much all the Marvel bad guys are at this house, and they're totally real.
Just hanging out playing poker.
No, eventually they just start devastating everything on purpose in a smart way.
Man, look at Doctor Doom. He's devastating everyone.
They just kept they were going out in a radius from this house, just fucking everything up. And
Why? Why are they working together?
They want to take over the world. They're like, hey, there's no heroes in this world. Let's just take it over.
But I don't know. Devastating everything is not the same as taking everything over.
I know, it's a reign of terror kind of situation, sort of like the
All Hail Megatron.
exactly what I was
Yeah.
about to say,
But again, that All Hail Megatron fell short primarily because it did such the superficial. He's in charge now. It didn't go into all the cool stuff they could have done.
Yeah. We need to really make one where bad guys are really actually smart, full on smart. And this one sort of gets there a little bit. Really, what this is all about is sort of the flavor. The art is not what you would normally expect from, a Marvel superhero comic. And it's got all sorts of 80s nostalgia going on. And it's pretty cool. And I liked it anyway. It was, it's not oh man, everyone rush out and buy Marvel 1985. Holy shit. But it's sort of hey, this is pretty fun. Little kid and Galactus shows up. It's crazy time.
You probably want to read. You know what? I take that back. You want to read this before you read 1602 because if
It's
it's not
roller
as good-
coaster syndrome.
Yeah.
It's not really related to 1602 except for the fact that there's a year in the title.
Well, I noted
The title is a
mostly
year.
for the same problem that the first Batman comic I ever actually read was Dark Knight Returns. So every other Batman comic just doesn't live up.
I should get some of the other ones that people say are also great.
Yeah, but everyone agrees they're not as good. They're good, but they're not as good.
Anyway, so if you haven't read 1602, you should definitely go out and get that instead.
Man, we should
That's
review
Neil
that.
Gaiman. You want to do a whole show on it?
I think we could do a whole show
gotta read
on
it again.
Yeah, so do I.
All right.
Pretty much anything
I got
with,
the hardcover of that bitch.
superheroes aside, Thor adds about +10 to my liking of anything.
Why don't you could read Thor every month if you wanted to. Why don't you?
Because you realize Thor the comic has a total score of 10. So anyway, there's actually some big news in the anime con, comic con circuit, and they all come together. Every year we go to the New York Comic Con and the New York Anime Festival.
New York Anime Festival's in 2 weeks.
Yes, and we'll talk about that during the meta bit. I'm going to push it off. I'm not going to talk about it now.
No snap.
But the New York Comic Con and the New York Anime Festival, starting in 2010, at least once, and probably forever after this, as long as this doesn't explode, are going to be combined into one convention. They're going to take over the whole Javits. It's going to be the biggest, craziest thing ever. I think in the long run, it's going to eclipse some of those West Coast shows.
Wow. That's it's pretty crazy.
I mean,
right
the New
there.
York Anime Festival gets a ton of people. It's one of the bigger anime cons. the New York Comic Con is like the biggest thing outside of STCC.
Yep.
And now that they're putting both in the same building in New York City.
I think they realized it's cheaper to do one big convention than two, right? And also, New York Anime Festival, it's pretty great, but it's not really, super great. And the New York Comic Con, needs a little bit more to get near to San Diego's level. It's combining them was a really, really great strategy. However, I hope they realize, they're going to, obviously they'll be able to sell more tickets because they have the whole Javits at once.
I think I know they know this. I know they know it. I don't know what they're going to do about it. But, notice how a lot of anime people go to the New York Comic Con just because they like conventions. So it's not like they're not, the people who go to the New York Comic Con are not familiar with the anime kids and what they do at cons. They're used to that. It's there. But the New York Comic Con's, here's an example. The dealer's room the dealer area is basically just here's the row of Silver Age comics, and here's the row of Gold Age comics. And the dealer's room at an anime con is here's the row of swords, here's the row of manga. I don't know how they're going to coexist.
It's going to be really, really interesting. I think the thing is actually I kind of really like this because we're definitely going to be doing stuff at it no matter what, right?
Oh my God, yes.
So,
we're already talking. The thing is, I'm excited.
Bigger audience is better, right? And second of all, the New York Anime Festival was really a one-day con. You would go, walk around for a day, looking at stuff, and that'd be it.
And the New York Comic Con
was a one-day con. You walked around looking at the exhibition hall, and that was it. And the panels, not that exciting.
Except our panels.
Right. If they combine these two, this is going to be a 3-day full-on do everything you can at this con, get the full action.
So I know many of you have seen us at the New York Comic Con or Anime Festival before, and we'll usually breeze in, do our panels, and disappear, and then we'll interview some people, and we're gone, we're ghosts.
Except for the 1 year we had a table.
Yeah. I might just get a hotel room and just stay in the city for the whole weekend.
Hopefully will be living in the city by October of 2010. If I'm actually gonna call a guy tomorrow. I saw some nice apartments.
We'll see, because maybe we'll fast forward to that time. You'll be living in one of the 5 bedrooms in my house.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. My house is pretty nice if I get it.
Oh, and if I'm living in your house, then you can go live in somewhere else.
But anyway, the one issue I see too is with the Artist Alley. New York Anime Festival Artist Alley is a Artist Alley like anime cons have. New York Comic Con Artist Alley is mostly big name people.
Yeah, it's
how are they going
people
to merge?
That really shouldn't be in an Artist Alley.
Because I think the Artist Alley is a different thing at a Comic Con.
I think what they're going to do, this is my prediction, you ready?
All right, because I have a prediction too. Let's see if they're the same. You go first.
Okay, so the New York Comic Con last year, right? It took up, right, the big area, the main area of the Javits, the entire main area, right? The New York Anime Festival took up the whole downstairs area of the Javits. It wasn't in the upstairs, it was in the downstairs. I think that what they're going to do is they're not going to merge them, physically. It's going to be the New York Comic Con upstairs, New York Anime Festival downstairs at the same time. And one ticket will get you into both. So that, I think, a lot of comic people won't even go downstairs. A lot of anime people won't even go upstairs. But some will.
I disagree on that point. If they do it that way, I think the comic people are going to stay in the comic area, but the anime people will be everywhere.
It's possible.
There'll
definitely be cross mixing of kinds.
I just think there'll be a lot more.
But I think there will be less cross mixing than you would think.
No, I think there's going to be a very disparate cross mixing. A lot more anime people are going to check out comic stuff than vice versa.
It's possible
because just every.
Now, here's the question,
well, remember,
right?
Every anime con we go to, people are into a lot of things, but every Comic Con we go to, half the people we run into are literally, with no exaggeration, telling us things like, I'm here to buy Silver Age Spider-Man, and that is the only reason I'm here.
All right, now how about this, right? Let's say you're a dealer, and there's 2 dealer rooms. Obviously, if you're an anime dealer, you know which one to go in. And if you're a guy who's selling Silver Age comics, you know where to go.
What if you're the sword dealer?
Right, well, what if you're Vertical Comics, right? They would get a booth at both conventions. They would get, Vertical Incorporated. They would get a booth at the anime, and they get a booth at the Comic-Con.
I don't think they're going to do it that way. I think it's going to be more integrated. I think
it's going to be more integrated?
But I think the Artist Alley will be tiered. There'll be multiple sections of the Artist Alley that are basically the same, but will have different titles.
It'll be definitely, it's going to be really, 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 really interesting, but it's a long way off, so they have a lot of time to get it right, or at least to figure things out.
But that's my prediction. They're going to have the Artist Alley will have the big name section and the normal section.
I think it would actually be
section.
better if they mixed them up, the big names and the small names to fix the traffic problems in the New York Comic Con Artist Alley. You know, because the Comic-Con artist alley has big problems with all those big names. If they put all the anime people mixed in, shuffle it up, you could really help the traffic out.
No, then you get the Liefeld situation where the Penny Arcade line just goes past them and no one ever sees their table.
Yeah. But it helps the traffic. It gives
I don't
room
know.
for the line to stand.
Maybe.
And then, you know what? All those people standing in line will look at their shit.
They're not going to do it that way, though. I'm pretty sure they're just going to have areas with different titles, like different designations. And the same thing in the dealer's room. They're probably going to have, like, the comic area of people just selling comics and, like, different areas of different kinds of dealers grouped
But are they
together.
going to have, like, the same, like, how many panel rooms are they going to be? Like, are you going to have, like, a problem where, like, there's an anime panel you want to go to, but there's a Comic-Con panel at the same time? It's just like, what do I see?
Most definitely. There's going to be a lot of panels. You're going to have to deal with it.
It's going to be crazy, crazy shit.
I'm
It's
excited.
definitely going to be a 3-day deal.
The main reason I'm excited is that normally, we'd only do panels at the New York Anime Festival. We were just now, because the Comic-Con is branching more and more into gaming, we really want to bring our gaming content to the New York Comic-Con.
Yeah, there was a lot of gaming like companies at the New York Comic Con last year. Remember we talked to like Upper Deck with their Warcraft minis and stuff? And
Yeah,
there was that whole table that had all those board games.
But if they unify them, it's the best of both worlds. Because remember when we brought Beyond D&D to Otakon, and it was like the 1,000 people in the
pretty
room,
good.
standing room only, crazy thing. Now we have the excuse to do panels like that at a Comic-Con anime festival, Daryl Surratt notwithstanding.
Nah, that's right. Anyway, yeah, it's going to be a very interesting con. It's a long way off. And I'm actually, it's like I wasn't really looking forward to New York Anime Festival, New York Comic Con. It was just sort of like, all right, here they come again. The
Yeah,
one
what am I
day
going to do? I'm going
cons.
to talk to like David Peterson again.
And now
'cause
it's
he's
like, it's
cool.
much better for me because now I've got another. I like to have fewer cons that are more powerful than to have lots of cons that take up a lot of time and a lot of energy but aren't that great.
But anyway, things of the day. So I have a non-video here. Usually it's like videos from College Humor, but I'm trying to avoid that because seriously,
You were looking at a few considering them.
I was. But seriously, half my things of the day are from College Humor. You should just go to College Humor and watch their videos.
collegehumor.com/videos.
Yes, but anyway.
C-Rims things of the day.
So this guy has been a fan of Mad Max for 27 years. Mad Max is like the greatest movie in the world to him.
All right,
so-
there's a fan of everything.
So what he has done is first he recreated the car, the Mad Max Interceptor,
That's pretty awesome.
and he has a blue heeler named Dog.
All right.
And he moved to the Australian outback to make a Mad Max museum and live as much as possible the life of Mad Max.
2-man enter, 1-man leave.
He
What if I enter? When he doesn't leave, what happens then?
There's this town, I think it's called Silverton in Australia, and I think they actually filmed Mad Max out in that area.
Yeah, I think
because
they did.
a lot of the extras and stuntmen live right there. And they think this guy is totally awesome. He's opening a Mad Max museum. He dresses like the Mad Max guy. It is just the story behind this is cool enough, and Mad Max is cool enough to where I think it warrants the thing of the day.
What does Melvin Gibstein think about this?
I have no idea. I will say, here's a quote from the article. One of the locals says, quote, Mr. Burnett is a fair dinkum wonderful bloke
Fair dinkum.
who lives and breathes Mad Max.
There's someone who lives and breathes everything, We were just talking about Pokemon.
But
There's
here's
a
an
lot of
example.
Pokemaniacs out there.
Here is an example. We always talk about the difference between a geek and a nerd. This guy is a nerd. He is a
Big time nerd.
He is a Mad Max nerd.
No joke.
A Mad Max geek will probably watch Fist of the North Star and think, yeah, that was pretty cool, but
Dude,
also
we
like
should
Mad
send
Max.
this guy a Fist of the North Star on
Oh
DVD.
my god. Maybe we should.
Whatcha?
It's not a bad idea.
You are shocked.
I'll see if I can get a contact info and I'll
Just send it to like Silverton, Australia, right? And just put his name on
there's
it.
only yeah. That's like Penn Jillette's old thing. He was like, just address a letter to me in Vegas and see if it comes to me. No address.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked. A lot of the letters got to him.
Yeah.
I think this guy would like Fist of the North Star.
Yeah, just put like the first as many episodes you can fit on a DVD, right? Make it a region free. Put a little letter in there like, hey, I read about you on whatever website. What website is it?
Some news site.
Oh, I read about you in the newspaper.
Yeah, the Times Online.
I read about you in the Times, and I heard you're a fan of Mad Max. Here is a Japanese animated cartoon from the olden days that I think you might enjoy. It's very similar to Mad Max.
Wow, Silverton. All right, it's out in the outback. It is 800 miles west of Sydney.
That's in the middle of nowhere.
and has a population of 51, including him. So he was the 51st person to move there.
So if you address it to, I'm sure it'll get there. You just have
Watch.
to pay the postage.
There are like
cost.
3 other people named that.
I wonder how often they get mail out there.
I don't know.
They gotta have mail. There's an Australia must be mail.
Here's the thing. I want to send something to this town now because think, there's only 51 people in the town. If a DVD shows up in the mail, you will probably have everyone in that town watching it.
I'm sure that they can buy things on Amazon. They probably get DVDs all the time.
I will probably make more fans of Fist of the North Star by mailing a DVD to this remote Mad Max town than I ever would talking about it on Geek Nights.
Possible. Anyway, so I got thing of the day. It's more appropriate for a Tuesday, but I wanted to spread this love to the Wednesday because I think the Tuesday would already know about this kind of thing. All right?
Ah.
We like Cthulhu. Who doesn't like Cthulhu, right?
Nyarlathotep.
I think he actually likes it.
That's hard to say.
I mean, he's always praying to anyway.
Yeah, but
And we like BattleTech, right? 2 great gaming classics, the BattleTech and the Call of Cthulhu, right? How about Cthulhu Tech?
is this like Poke-Thulu?
No, this is actually a legit game. It actually has 2 expansions.
Hey, Poke-Thulu was the legit game.
No, this is a super legit game. Like, holy crap,
So-
they're selling a rule book in PDF for like $70.
Is this literally just mechs versus Cthulhu?
It's fucking Cthulhu Tech, and it's for real, and it actually won a lot of awards for being a good game.
Let's get it.
It's like $70, but I think I'm gonna pay for it anyway.
I might pay.
And I get a PDF immediately, and then the full book will come later. And then if we actually play it, then I'll buy some of the expansion bits. The one expansion allows for like minor cults to enter the game. And I didn't read what the other one did, but yeah, Cthulhu Tech is totally for reals.
That sounded up our alley in a big way.
I know, even if it's a bad, it can't. It's won a lot of awards. I mean, come on.
Even if it's shitty, it'll go on the shelf next to all the other
It's real
RPGs.
expensive though.
It'll go next to all the other RPGs and board games that aren't good, but we bought anyway.
Yeah.
Like Twilight Struggle.
Yeah, I
Ooh.
spent more money, $5 more on Battlelore. So yeah.
See, I told you Battlelore is a bad
I should
idea.
sell that Battlelore. Anyone want a Battlelore? It's a full set, hardly ever played of Battlelore, and I actually have an extra board, so you can play with a board that's twice as big.
Yeah.
And I'll try. I paid like a total of like $85 something $90 for both parts. So if I'll sell it for a lot less than that, $50, $40, whatever. Battlelore comes with like 1 million miniatures. They're all unpainted.
So anyway,
know.
before we get on to the main bit and our Pokemon adventure stylings, this is where we do the meta bits now. It's a new bit on Geek Nights where we try to keep all of our meta crap out of the rest of the show and put it right here. All the stuff about Geek Nights that is not relevant unless you are a fan of Geek Nights directly and in our community.
Yeah, so meta note number 1, the ad contest is still ongoing. I'm going to give it another week or so. Basically, we want to purchase ads on other websites to advertise Geek Nights. However, to do this, we need images that are the ads themselves. If you go to the forum.frontrowcrew.com, and you go, there's a thread. It says ad contest. There are all the instructions there, how big to make the images and such and such. Send the images by email or post them in the forum. We'll pick a winner, and you'll win all 6 volumes of the Akira manga, a very awesome prize that is worth a lot of money. It's like $180 worth of manga, so you want to enter if you have any Photoshop or design skills whatsoever.
So, meta bit number 2. We are going to be at the New York Anime Festival, and I've got our schedule here for you finally. I had to go dig it up. This was settled like 4 months ago, so I had to go find like this old email to figure out what we're doing.
Yeah.
So,
perhaps the last New York Anime Festival.
The New York Anime Festival is next weekend, the 25th, 26th, and 27th of September in the Jacob Javits Center in New York City. We are going to be there Friday and Saturday. Friday evening, 7:30. In panel room 3, we were doing Know Your Creators, the same panel we did at Otakon. So if you saw it at Otakon,
it's probably
don't
the last
bother.
time we're gonna do that panel.
We're gonna revamp it. We're gonna drop it and do a similar panel that's very different, but accomplishes the same purpose. So this is the last running of it. If you really want to see it, check it out. And on Saturday at 7:45 p.m., also in panel 3, anime every fan should see: cover your bases. That's basically an amalgamation of every different title we've given this panel in the last
So
couple
we're only
of years.
doing 2 panels?
Only 2 panels.
Oh, that's pretty easy.
Friday and Saturday. And Saturday's
And they're
the
both
day.
nighttime panels, so
Yes.
Saturday during the day, maybe we can go look at apartments or something.
I think it's Saturday during the day I'm going to do some stuff in the city for sure.
We should go look at apartments.
Yeah, or maybe we'll do a listener meetup. Anyone who's going,
Oh, not a bad idea.
let us know, and Saturday we'll try to schedule something like we can say hi, or maybe we'll take you guys out somewhere.
We'll make a thread in the forum for like NYAF 09 listener meetup, and if anyone listening to this is going to the NYAF, then post there.
Man, so if there's no more NYAF, it's just the NYAFnik?
I think, well, I mean, the Reed exhibitions, right? They got this show in Chicago, the C2E2.
Yep.
That's basically going to be an everything con, everything nerdy, right? So I think what they're doing is they realize that New York Comic Con, combine it with NYAF, they can sort of make it more like the C2E2, and basically what they'll end up doing is saving a lot of resources and run basically the same show twice.
I'm honestly getting more and more excited about Reed doing these geek conventions because you see every year, like they're a professional business, and I work with a lot of the people in this company.
It's taken a while. They started out doing the shows the same way they did their normal businessy shows, but now I think they've realized geek shows make a lot more money. They get a lot more press. They're a lot more exciting, and they're learning how to do them with time.
Yep,
and
the
you
staff,
need more than just a room full of booze.
And as far as I can tell, the staff, like, they're getting into it more and more, and they're really enjoying.
Well, they're hiring a lot of people who are nerdy to handle that kind of shit.
Yep, but the other cool thing is that, remember, they're handling all the logistics for PAX East too. So Reed. One, they spend all this time like analyzing their conventions and figuring out how to do them better, and they have professional resources to throw at that sort of thing. Two, by managing PAX East and all these different comic and anime cons, they basically are in a position to learn from like the things that all these different kinds of cons do well and amalgamate them into what could be in the end like the generic Uber Geek Con.
Yeah, it's definitely, their cons, are good, but they're not like, super amazing. But they're definitely, you can see they're clearly improving and learning. And I think they're going to, eventually they're just going to be like the masters of the Geek Con.
Plus, I will say, as a meta aside, we're staff on Kineticon, we're the heads of panels, and we do stuff like Otakon and everything, and Anime Boston's fun, but it's not really relevant to a lot of you. You go to these cons as an attendee, you want to enjoy the panels, do all the stuff, but from our perspective, the meta perspective, as like performers, as lecturers, as staff, as all this stuff, the professional cons and the ones run by Reed are just so much nicer to work with and so much easier to deal with.
Because they actually email you back. That's pretty much the only difference.
I mean, if you guys saw like all the bullshit and hurdles we have to go through at some of these fan conventions to do just to do a panel,
it's mostly because just people don't email us back. That's really the only problem.
But I mean, more and more, I don't want to turn my back on the fan-run cons because I like them. And for attendees, I still think in a lot of ways they're better. Like, Otakon and Anime Boston have a lot going for them.
Yep.
Then again, of course, PAX West is like the ultimate of that.
Yep.
But while I don't want to turn my back on these fan cons, personally, it's just so much easier to go to the professional cons.
Yeah, I think our con schedule for the foreseeable future is Anime Boston, Otakon, PAX East West,
Kineticon.
NYAF, New York Comic Con, Kineticon. I think that's it, right?
Yep, and the little ancillary things like Zenkai Con because that our friends run that.
Are we doing that?
Yeah, we're doing
I
some
gotta
panels
put it on
at
my
it.
calendar.
Yeah. We're doing some of our good gaming panels, and actually, that thing's picking up. I could see it going places.
No, very good.
I don't know if we'll ever have time to do Toricon again. I like Toricon. It's too far away.
I can't go back to Rochester. Maybe if I'm got like mad extra vacation days and mad extra monies, I could use the JetBlue.
Yeah, it's just more and more all my reasons to go back to Rochester have moved away from Rochester.
Yep. Okay, so main bit.
Pokemon Adventures. Now,
oh, snaps.
if you like,
gotta catch them all, bitches.
it's real simple, but I learned something. I learned something that has changed everything, but I'll get to that in a second. If you liked the Pokemon games, the actual games on Nintendo.
Yep, not like any of those other Pokemon. It's weird. Pokemon is a strange thing in that there's sort of like this core, right? The core is the original series of games for the Game Boy/DS. Pokemon Red, Blue, Green, the ones that are just colors. Not Pokemon Snap, not Pokemon Troze, not
Snap.
Pokemon Pinball, not Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, just plain old Pokemon Color. Any color, right? That main series of games is like the core, and it's great. And a lot of that extra stuff is sort of nah, right? And with the Pokemon anime, yeah, whatever, right?
It's okay. It's got some good bits. I enjoy it.
It has some aspects that are good, but really, right? And, most Pokemon manga is bleh.
Well, I'm not even going to say blah. I think it's more simple. it's all very different from the core Pokemon.
Exactly.
Like, it's kind of like all those Carcassonne expansions just tacked down around the side of this completely separate original thing.
Yeah, and Pokemon is a strange thing because you expect Pokemon to be like this kiddie sort of thing. And you know what? It is. All that tacked on stuff is exactly the stereotype of what you would think Pokemon is. But the core Pokemon stuff, the core series of video games, and this manga, which is pretty much the only other thing that I consider to be in the Pokemon core, are the real deal, not just silly kiddie stuff.
I mean, basically, if you enjoy the Pokemon games, you should read this manga. Pokemon
Make sure you get the right
Adventures.
one. Pokemon Adventures. That's it. It's not called Pokemon Color. It's not called anything else. It's just Pokemon Adventures. That's it. That's how you know it's the right one. And Viz recently reprinted it. See, back in the day, right? Back in like the early 2000s, I think. Viz printed this in the US, and they printed it in these big books. They were like full size, but they were thin. It was like one chapter and one trade paperback.
I remember Luke had them all at RIT. That's how we read it.
Yeah, so Luke is like, oh my God, you got to read this Pokemon manga. And we're like, what? And we read it, and we're like, oh shit. But it was published sort of like as almost like a coloring book. So we're like, what the fuck, is with this printing format?
Yeah.
And then eventually, right now, like as of like a month or two ago, Viz finally reprinting this original Pokemon Adventures manga in the, manga digest format. So it's actually in an accessible book. It's only $8 per book. And let's see, this book has volume 2. How many pages are in this guy for $8? I'm trying to find a page number. It doesn't matter. It's a lot of freaking pages. At least 200 something, more than 200 pages of manga for $8. That's a good deal right there.
Well, it depends on the manga, but for this one, definitely.
This one is definitely the real deal.
Now, it was originally put out by Shogakukan, and in the, I think, 1996, 1997.
Oh, it's an old manga.
Oh, man, we're so old.
So old.
Oh, my God.
That's actually kind of interesting because, we were reading it in the U.S. in 01, 02, so it took less than 5 years for it to get over
Yeah,
here.
it is interesting how there's the weird nostalgia factor where Pokemon is both a lot older than you think and yet not nearly as old as
The
you
original
think.
Pokemon was for the original Game Boy.
But it's weird
Not
how,
even Game Boy Color, just Game Boy.
my whole, I think of one, I cannot consider or imagine or remember the point at which I became aware of Pokemon.
I do. I remember exactly when.
I feel as though I was always aware of Pokemon and the Pokemon always existed.
No, I remember exactly when because I was reading my Game Pro magazines, right? And there was, suddenly there was all this stuff about Pokemon, and I was like, why are they pushing this kids game? Pokemon, whatever, right? And I kept skipping over all the Pokemon stuff, just being like, whatever. And eventually, of course, my brother who had the Nintendo Power, right? He got the Pokemon for his Game Boy Pocket. Game Boy Pocket, but you don't remember that guy.
I remember that guy.
Game Boy Pocket was great.
You know why I didn't buy that shit? I had a Game Gear. It was already in color.
No, Game Boy Pocket wasn't in color.
No, it wasn't, but it had a much better screen. It was
Game
like,
Boy Pocket was basically original Game Boy, only smaller, had more battery life with 2 AAA batteries instead of 4 AA's.
And the screen
was bigger and the device was smaller.
also, not only was the screen bigger, that wasn't the biggest deal.
Think
the screen was high contrast.
Yeah, think
it
about
was
the Game
black
Boy
and white.
Yeah, think about the Game Boy Micro. That's what the Game Boy Pocket was. It was like that, only worth it. So,
I mean, the Game Boy Pocket, I as a kid, I remember dismissing it until a friend of mine had it and I saw it. And I realized that you could have colors other than drab lime to darker drab lime.
yeah. Anyway, so my brother got the Pokemon for the Game Boy Pocket. And then I had the Game Boy Color soon after, and I was just like, all right, I saw the Pokemon, and I was like, oh, wow. That's actually that's what that, and I thought it was some kiddie thing all along, whatever. I just dismissed it and skipped over it and didn't read about it. Once I saw what it was, I was like, oh, fuck me. I got the Pokemon.
We keep saying it's the real deal, but there is solid evidence for this to the point that the quote is all over the internet. It's on Wikipedia. There are 1 million citations for it. But Satoshi Tajiri, the guy who created Pokemon, he said, and I quote, Bokuga tsutai takata seki no motomo chikai manga desu.
Uh-huh.
This is the comic that most resembles the world I was trying to convey.
Yeah, if you look, right, at, say...
I only said the Japanese because they pointedly put the Japanese in the Wikipedia to make sure that no one argues about the translation or anything.
Wow. So anyway, if you look at the original Pokemon Game Boy game, right, that was the first ever Pokemon ever, was that Game Boy game. There was no Pokemon before that. That was it. Then look at, say, the anime, for example, right? And compare that to the original video game. There's a lot of big differences. I mean, like, Pikachu's his first Pokemon. It's like, no, in the Game Boy game, he gets, either, Charmander, Squirtle, or Bulbasaur first. Pikachu comes later. And that's only if you get one. You don't have to get a Pikachu if you don't want to. It's kind of hard to skip it, though. And there's like the story, and he's not Ash Ketchum. He's you name him, but the default name is Red because he's the red guy. And there's a rival, and his default name is Blue.
There's also Yellow, the Yellow Caballero. That guy's the fucking man.
Yellow Caballero rocks the house. But it's like, Brock and Misty don't follow you around, right? You just fight them once, and that's the end of them.
Also, in this manga, Misty, badass.
And Team Rocket in the Game Boy game, badass, scary dudes. In the anime, you got like that Jesse and James silly nonsense going on. So, the anime, while it has many similarities with the original, Game Boy game, it is, very much a diversion, right? Actually, interesting thing, right? In the anime, right, the main character's name in the U.S. is Ash Ketchum, right? And the rival is what, Gary, I think?
Yep. Well, the thing is, I know where you're going with this. In the original Japanese, the names were actually Shigeru and Satoshi. The names of Miyamoto and the guy who created Pokemon.
That's in the anime, though. In the Game Boy game, it was Red and Blue.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was sort of interesting to find that out. But
now,
anyway...
I talked earlier about something that blew my mind, and this is like one of those puzzle pieces that fell out into my lap from the internet, and it looks legit, and it answers every question. Everything fell into focus. I now understand everything there is to understand about Pokemon.
Yep.
The guy who created Pokemon, Satoshi Tajiri. So when he was a kid, as a young boy, he lived in Machida near Tokyo, and he liked to collect bugs. All right? He just collected bugs.
Yep.
So eventually, all the places he used to go to collect bugs were paved over and turned into apartments. And he was sad, so he eventually wanted to make a game where people could relive that and collect bugs.
He succeeded.
Much in the same way that Miyamoto, what was Legend of Zelda? He used to wander through the woods as a kid, and he wanted to recreate that sense of exploration and wonder.
I had a great idea. I'll tell you after the show. But anyway...
well, way to leave listeners hanging. So
Ram, tell me, was there something you did as a kid that you now want to recreate and recapture?
Play DOS games.
That's a good one. That was awesome.
Of all things, I installed fucking TIE Fighter in DOSBox.
You know what we should do? We should make a video game that sort of recreates the experience of installing and uninstalling games in DOS.
That's a good idea.
And that's all it is like, just you pretend to install and uninstall games to keep your DOS disk space.
We can make it in the don't shit your pants style.
Then you have to make boot disks and everything.
Instead of don't shit your pants, it's don't break your computer and make TIE Fighter work.
Nah.
Anyway, so the piece of the puzzle where it all came together. Nintendo, the guy was called reclusive and eccentric by people at Nintendo, but very creative. Turns out the creator of Pokemon had Asperger's.
Oh, really? That's a surprise.
Now, suddenly...
Is he OCD also?
I'm not sure, but suddenly...
Gotta catch 'em all,
Everything about Pokemon makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely everything.
So anyway, what we're talking about, Pokemon Adventures, this manga, which is written by Hidenori Kusaka, and the art is by Mato, I guess a person with one name like Sting.
I read that just the coloring was done by Mato.
Well, that's the...
I'm not sure.
I'm looking at the front of the cover of the Viz Volume 2, which is story by Hidenori Kusaka, art by Mato. So take from that what you will.
Satoshi Yamamoto.
This manga... Basically, as someone who has played the video games...
Okay, I see what happened. Mato did the first 9 volumes, and then other people took over after that.
As someone who has played the video games and read this manga is basically a manga version of the video game. Like, it is so dead on, in the way it feels, the way the story goes and everything. So, the thing is, of course, it's more fleshed out, because the video game, doesn't have a lot of filler in it in terms of lots and lots of text. It only has a little bit when you talk to people. So this sort of takes the shell of the story of the video game and keeps everything that's in there, and then just sort of fills in the gaps. It adds a little bit, too. Like, there's a new character, Green, who's the girl who's totally awesome. And there's a couple other slight differences, but they fit in. They don't, stand out as, being out of place, like the way Ash Ketchum does. This is totally right along with, the feel and how those games go. It's totally great. The thing that I like about it the most, I think, is that, in Earthsea, right? The Wizard of Earthsea, it's like you read book 1, it's about Ged, right? And then, like, you read the rest of the books, and Ged is sort of like becomes this legendary figure, and he's not really around. I mean, he's kind of around, but he's not really, really around. He's become this legendary figure, right? These Pokemon books go the same way. The first few volumes are about Red, the original Pokemon guy. And then you read Yellow Caballero, which comes after that, and Red is now sort of like this mysterious legendary figure, but you know all about him because you read those other volumes. But now he's all legendary and mysterious, and it's totally awesome. I love that shit. I think that other stories need to do more of that. Like, you read Lord of the Rings, and Merlin is he's there, but he's still sort of mysterious, right? They should have had the story of Merlin first, and then do the Lord of the Rings where Merlin's all mysterious. That way, you get that same feeling you get in Pokemon and Earthsea.
Well, regardless, the game and the comic give me the same feeling actually that Earthbound does. There's this very,
well, Earthbound is very Pokemon.
It is, but just the idea, the journey of the child through the adult world, through the eyes of a child and with the priorities of a child. Mm-hmm. But yet, it's an adult world that the child is traveling through. Mm-hmm. And that mystique to a child, I think that is what made Pokemon and Earthbound, Mother, just so amazingly transcendently popular among kids.
Yeah. What else is pretty great about this Pokemon, right, is that you look at some of the other Pokemon things, like especially Pokemon movies, concentrate a lot on the Pokemon themselves, on the monsters and catching them all.
He's got Gyarados, well, I have Squirtle, so I'll do the blah.
Or even like you'll see scenes where it's just Pokemon, there's no people around. This is all about the people. The Pokemon are just sort of there, It's sort of like, I don't know, but it's about the trainers. It's all about the trainers. The trainers are the main characters. It's all about them and the people they talk to. The Pokemon are there, and they are characters, but they're not the primary characters. They're always, like, off to the side a little bit. And they'll do awesome stuff with the Pokemon, but they sort of take the place of the cute pet, like Akamako or something like that, where they have, hilarious scenes when they do something and they say funny things and do funny things, but they're not the characters. You're not, like, following the adventure of Pikachu. It's the adventure of Red. It's about Red. It's about the Yellow Caballero. It's about Green and Gary and Professor Oak and those people. And, that's what I want to see, is I want to see a story about people. I don't want to see a story about, cute monsters, right? But, the cute monsters are still there, and they still provide awesome moments. I know Rim loves his Bulbasaur all the time.
Oh, my God. Bulbasaur is just... I don't think you guys understand how hardcore Bulbasaur is.
Yeah. And, there's all sorts of, like, funny situations, like when their Pokemon get mixed up, or, like, and, like, he has to ride on the Gyarados or whatever, and he goes in the water, and he's like, oh, shit, surf, oh, crap.
Probably my favorite parts, though, are all toward the end. Team Rocket is a serious, scary, pseudo-terrorist organization.
Yeah, I love that shit.
And Giovanni is one scary, badass motherfucker.
Yeah.
Jesus.
He actually appears here in Volume 2. This is great, because he goes and he talks to Red, and he just sort of walks around with Red, like all normal-like, pretending to be friendly.
It reminds me of that scene in Die Hard.
Yeah, then after Red walks away, he sort of, like, pulls his coat back, and you can see the letter R on his vest. It's all stylish, and it's like, oh shit, he's Team Rocket, oh snap.
But the fact that Team Rocket is more like this mafia organization, like this evil,
that's
like
the thing.
Seriously evil.
If you looked at Team Rocket in the original video game, you didn't know much about them other than that they were bad guys and what they looked like, and they all looked like bad guys. They would wear black, evil kind of suits, and they'd be up to no good. And in the manga, they're even more evil and up to even more no good.
But they're up to realistic no good. They're trying to do, the kinds of things that mafias do, just in a world where there are Pokemon.
Yeah, they want to get Pokemon and make them all powerful and do all sorts of evil stuff with them. Take over towns and smash things and threaten people and, all that sort of evil stuff. They have an evil corporation that's a front for their mafia-ness.
Yep. This manga, at least the beginning of it, is just the story of Red and his, youthful idealism and him fighting against Team Rocket. And it culminates in, the whole story.
Well, really, he's just trying to become, this great Pokemon trainer.
He is, but he gets embroiled
and
in
get all the
this.
badges. But then, along the way, he can't help but keep bumping into Team Rocket, and then Team Rocket's coming after him at the same time, and so it's a big mess.
It just, like the first saga, how that all ends with Giovanni and him and everything is just amazing.
Yeah, it's very amazing.
This is a good manga, and you should all just read it.
I mean, it's Viz Kids, right? But don't be put off. I mean, it is appropriate for kids, obviously, but don't be thinking it's kid-y. I mean, there's shit going down in here, like people's getting arms get chopped off, or like Pokemon get cut up and they bite people, and it's friggin' hardcore.
It's a dangerous world.
Yeah, I mean, friggin' as a giant Pokemon, if it steps on you, you're dead.
But the thing is, don't be fooled. When you just start reading the manga, the first volume, it starts out on the same level, I'd say, as that Legend of Zelda manga. Like, it's kind of lighthearted, and it is kind of kiddie at first. And
it's also a Viz Kids title.
Yeah, but it definitely progresses and gets darker and more serious and more cool as time goes on. And by the end of the first story arc with Red, and then when you move on to Yellow, you'll see what we're talking about. You'll see why we like this so much.
The other thing is that plot-wise, it skips over a lot of sort of like the fiddly BS that like other Pokemon things will pay attention to, right? Like you don't see him catch every single freaking Pokemon, It's like they'll sort of skip ahead. He's like, oh yeah, this, there'll be one chapter, he's got like 3 Pokemon. The next chapter, he'll have like 8, and you'll see ones that weren't there, and you just sort of assume that he caught them in the meantime, and he did, and that's that. You don't need to see that. What's the deal? And it moves at a very nice pace as a result, as opposed to getting bogged down, where you watch him throw a Pokeball. It didn't work. Throw a Pokeball. It didn't work. You don't have that sort of stuff going on. So yeah, Pokemon Adventures. Don't get the wrong one. Pokemon Adventures. Let's see. The ISBN of Volume 2 is 139781421. Oh, it doesn't start with 13. 97814215305550. So I'll post some Amazon links in the show notes so you get the exact right volumes. You don't get the wrong thing. How about that? Sound good? Good. Pokemon Adventures.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Odeo on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.